Well, it's the end of the week. I know, folks. Remember, it's a short one. Oh, gosh, darn it. But what we've decided to do is just cram lots of great conversation into the last show of the week before Good Friday. On today's program, Lawrence Gunther, he's back to talk about the return of the dire wolf. Come on, don't pretend you haven't heard anything about this, folks. This is after its 12,500 year absent from Earth. From parmesan-crusted grilled cheese to tuna salad chaos, our favorite foodie, Mary Mammoliti, is with us, and she's going to reveal celebrity cooking tips that we can steal for our own kitchen fun. Wow, 12,500 year absence? Talk about a triumphant return. We're here!
This is Kelly and Company.
Kelly MacDonald here on your Thursday. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Lots of great content that we place out there for you at Kelly & Co. AMI. Lady responsible for the bulk of it, Nazreen Abdul-Majid, joining me on the show today. Keeping busy with your socials?
Oh, absolutely. But Kelly, I just noticed that we're matching. I'm wearing a royal blue scarf. You're wearing a royal blue button-down shirt. I love it.
All right. That's really cool. It's funny when that stuff, and it's funny when that fluky happens, right? Like you just, hey, let's show up. Hey, and wow, look, we match. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then just like you just show up and it happens to be, and that is the way it is. We've got some great conversations. Do you know much about this dire wolf?
Dude, I read about it and I'm terrified just thinking about it. But I saw the pictures of the puppies and they were so cute.
Oh,
but
they got cool names too.
Yeah, they have cool names, and we'll get Lawrence talking about all that. But just the idea of them getting bigger and their history behind it is just, it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's amazing when these things happen and you see this stuff and say, wow, how is that so possible? It's like, oh, well, this is
yeah,
how it's
the
possible.
Impossible is possible. And it's mind blowing, just the whole research of it. So it's crazy. Yeah.
I love it. I just love it. And I mean, it is kind of, as everybody likes to say, well, it's kind of scary to think of that being done that way and what's happened. But it is a fact. And it is what it is. And, I think that's what we have to figure in our world. This is the way it is now. These are the things we head for. Let's get into this interesting conversation too, because so many of us rely on our ears out there and we think a lot about interpretations of different things. Dolby's Sound of a Masterpiece is an innovative project that transforms iconic visual artworks into immersive audio experiences. We have Amy Amantea here to join us, our arts and culture contributor on the program, to give us the score on this way of making art accessible. Amy, welcome back. And Sound of a Masterpiece is exploring yet another way into art, and we love this. Was this developed specifically for people who are blind and partially sighted?
Well, fancy you should ask that question, Kelly. It absolutely was developed specifically with us in mind, and that's because it was developed in collaboration with a low vision composer, Bobby Golder, and the Royal National Institute of the Blind, the RNIB, Royal National Institute of Blind People. They always change their name, the RNIB, and that's of course in the UK. So they composed this with the support of the New Radiophonic Workshop, and so they all get together with Dolby and they collaborate and think about the various ways into the work with all these different perspectives, and of course music and their various skills and what Dolby Atmos brings to the table, that technology, and they create a spatial audio experience that conveys the emotions, the textures, the contrasts of the original artworks through sound. And of course, we're talking about famous artworks, right? Things like the Mona Lisa, for example. What does the Mona Lisa sound like? So, for example, there's a written blurb when it was asked in one of these articles I was reading what the Mona Lisa sounds like. So I'm just going to read this blurb for you, and then we're going to throw to a little clip of an interview about this process. So it says, this immersive composition reinterprets Leonardo DiCaprio. Yes, Leonardo DiCaprio. He painted the Sistine Chapel. Leonardo da Vinci's iconic painting through a rich spatial soundscape. It blends Renaissance choral influences with modern sonic textures, aiming to capture the painting's enigmatic expression and timeless allure. This piece was created by low vision composer Bobby Golder, of course, in collaboration with the New Radiophonic Workshop, and mixed in Dolby Atmos at London's RAK Studios. So I think if we play this clip of the official trailer of the project, you'll get a little more insight. So maybe we'll have Mark play that clip for us.
I love art, and when I go to art museums, I can get a broad sense of what a painting looks like, but I don't see a huge amount of detail. I struggle quite a lot. What myself and the other sound designers have been doing in collaboration with Dolby and the RNOB has been creating sonic responses to famous works of art. We've been trying to bring visually impaired people or blind people a little closer into these paintings.
So the original radiophonic workshop set up by the BBC, probably its most famous work was Doctor Who theme music and the noises of Doctor Who. I was drawn to this project for this collaborative effort, thinking differently about sound.
We're here at RAK Studios today doing the final Dolby Atmos mixes on the Sound of Masterpiece project.
Dolby Atmos is really exciting. There's so much storytelling opportunity that you just can't do in stereo sound.
Bobby, because he's principally a pianist, every response could be first his response in terms of a piano sketch.
He would write a piece of music inspired by the painting, and then we would take what he would do and then expand it and manipulate it and create different kind of worlds and shapes from it.
We used Ella, who's a sound designer, to bring the final layer of it.
I was looking at the Mona Lisa, the landscape surrounding the elements of the painting, and then trying to represent that in sound. As soon as you put it into Dolby Atmos, it kind of makes it feel more like it surrounds you.
I find that amazing, Amy, when you're thinking about what would one use to create this as a an artist, a composer, trying to figure out what best sounds in any capacity, something that is still, something you look at versus be able to actually have it moving and have to go step by step, which helps you a lot. This is totally what do I feel this should be? How do I want to represent each piece of this? So you listen to the album. Explain that. How did it come out piece by piece?
Yeah, so there are 7 artworks that they explored in this Dolby Atmos project. And that's the technology that creates kind of this surround soundy kind of sound. I listened to the album as much as I could because trying to access it for me wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. But we'll talk about that in a moment. And I really enjoyed the music of it. For me, my question mark around all of this is, does this music, if I've never seen the artwork, convey to me what the artwork looks like? Or is it really just a secondary what we would call in the arts world, an artistic response to art, which is more, I think, the argument that I would give, which is this is an artist's response to a piece of art, which is really its own piece of art, right? It's like a companion piece of art because it doesn't tell me what the Mona Lisa looks like by listening to the work, but the work is so interesting as an artistic response to something like the Mona Lisa. So if you've never seen the Mona Lisa, it doesn't tell you what it looks like. But how do you both feel about it being an artistic response versus it being a translation of a piece of artwork?
Yeah, I would, it really makes you think how making this into an interpretation of the art itself, because at the end of the day, everybody looks at art differently. Everybody really interprets art in a different way. So I would think this is a response rather than an exact interpretation. But yeah, it like, I listened to the album and it's absolutely beautiful. And I look at the picture and I'm like, okay, I could see the visuals. I could see the sound kind of pretty much interpreting the piece. But yeah, it's really remarkable. Like I think of the water lily pond, and when I hear the music, it really interprets it. But how I interpret the piece is different than you are going to interpret the piece, and how you look at it is going to be different than how I look at it. It's very interesting, but it covers it all.
Yeah, obviously, if you know a little bit about the composer too, you know that Nisreen's looking at it, for example, people with some usable vision, or versus somebody who's seen, maybe lost their vision, somebody who has never seen, or a fully sighted person, and what they're going to take away from it. You add that to the fact that everyone has their own take on art. If you aren't sitting down and going to an art class at college and having it explained to you and everything like that, you're going to really take from it, if you've never really encountered it, as like myself, I have no idea what the look of the Mona Lisa is. It's a name of a very famous painting for me. I find it fascinating to think of breaking it down and putting a piece for different elements in it. That's the way I imagine it, as someone who really, even now, would not have enough usable vision to take that in. I don't think I've been too influenced in my life having people describe it, talk about it, and give their opinions, well, you know, and have a lecture given to me on it. So I think it is so full of personal choice, listening to it, listening to the album, that it's fascinating. But one would argue, why? Who's it done for? And, you know, I think putting any music to something and we can relate. We have been influenced so much by different things around the world that we associate. And we may say, yeah, that is what, in my world, the sound of, you know, drops of water off of lilies, off of, you know, into a pond.
Yeah, and you ask yourself, does it share an emotional response similar to what what's described for sighted viewers as well?
Absolutely. And what was interesting to me about the album is that the album has the compositions, but also has an audio description file on it as well. So it gives you the audio description of for example, the Mona Lisa, because that's the one we've chosen to talk about. But there are, like I said, 7 works of art on there. And it gives you the score. So if you want to listen to the audio description of it, you get that. If you want to listen to the score of it, you get that. So I think they're doing their best to, you know, with air quotes, not leave anybody behind, because some people want to experience the description of a piece before they listen to the music, or the music before they listen to the piece, or want to know what they're looking at, air quotes, or all sorts of different things, right? So it makes sense that they would actually have somebody include the audio description. Now, what I found difficult about accessing the album itself was they recommend that you go to a streaming platform, a Spotify and Apple Music, and I don't have a subscription for these. So I tried to go through my iTunes store, and it wasn't available. And when I went to Apple Music, they said, oh, you can purchase it from iTunes, and gave me a link. And then I wasn't able to purchase it. I just want to purchase the album. I don't want to sign up for a month-to-month subscription to get it.
Right.
So I was really disappointed that I wasn't able to download it independently. So all I was able to listen to was the examples of the album, which gives you 30 seconds of each clip, or 90 seconds, whatever it is, of each clip.
Of it.
Samples of it. So I was disappointed that I couldn't hear more of it, and I absolutely would have downloaded it, because the proceeds go to the RNIB. And I think that that's a fantastic way to support community members who are blind and low vision, and to access art, and to support blind arts, all sorts of ways of being able to get involved in the things that we do as a culture, and then to find out that it's not really made accessibly to everybody. It's behind a paywall that maybe not everybody has access to. That was disappointing to me.
Yeah, it gets frustrating. I know the different ways that make it easier in their minds to get more people accessing it and to collect that donation money, the mechanisms for that. Aim, what are people in the UK saying? The people that were sat around and told, hey, what do you think of this? Have we had much feedback?
We have. And I think it's a lot like what we're talking about now, which is this is fascinating. They really love that Bobby Golder is involved in this. They love that he's coming to this artwork from a completely different perspective. They love the music. The same question they have is what we have is it a translation? Is it a description of the work of art itself? Probably not, but that it's a lovely companion piece to the work, and are often saying, well, it's really its own standalone work. That doesn't mean they don't work together, but you can't really say that one is a substitute for the other. But that it's just a really nice, interesting project. And, thank you for another way of exposing us to this kind of artwork. So I think that's kind of the takeaway, which is it's not a replacement. It's not an enhancement necessarily of the painting that we're talking about. It's a response. It's a complementary work of something that already has existed through time, but very much appreciate this idea of all the work that's gone into it, because they're taking components from this work, right? They do the research into, like, the Mona Lisa, and what would the brush strokes have sounded like? What would the Renaissance time period have sounded like? All of those things. And you can hear that in this interview piece, where you can hear kind of the sound of the old organs and stuff, so sort of being the Renaissance-y kind of dark sound of that period of time. And the Mona Lisa has darker colors in it, and the ink kind of is cracked and fading a little bit on the facial features of the Mona Lisa. And so they're bringing in all of those kind of elements so that you can maybe feel that residually in your bones, right? Once you know those features, yes, then you're kind of like, ooh, I feel that in the music. But feeling that in the music doesn't say, ooh, I think the paint has cracks in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Amy, do you think? Sorry, go ahead.
Before you just ask your question, opinion from either of you. Do you think in a 7-minute, 8-minute, 9-minute string of a piece of music, you would have captured it in your minds as a more fuller picture of the Mona Lisa, or does it lend itself being in almost an album format? Nisreen, I know you've had a little experience with it. With it, would you feel that if after looking at it, or as you were looking at it and hearing music, as that complimentary piece Amy says, would it be captured in your mind more this way, or is it a lot to unpack as different pieces?
I think it is a lot to unpack in different pieces, but it really gave me a feeling than a picture in my mind, and I felt the picture rather than, putting it into a full-on image. And I think that gives meaning. It gives you imagination. It gives you creativity to kind of put all these pieces together. I'm sensing emotion. I'm sensing vision. Like it's more than just picturing one picture in your head, Right.
Yep. Amy, you listened to it the way you did, and which is kind of bringing me to why I wanted to ask this, as a string of different pieces, samples, as Nisreen mentioned, getting an idea in your mind to bring it in. Does it fit better almost that way, or would you have really wanted those full length to get that picture, or one piece? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, I can extrapolate what a full length piece of 6 or 7 minutes worth of this music would be for one piece, right? Because in the album, of course, every piece is going to be different, and I don't necessarily know whether they all coordinate well together, like an artist would put an album together, right? Because these pieces are so varied. what works for me about this is the fact that, and again, we'll put it in the context of the Mona Lisa, which is I've had the privilege in my life of being in front of it twice at the Louvre. Once I saw it as a sighted person, and once I saw it as a blind low vision person. Actually, as a low vision person, I was able to see it close up, and as a sighted person, I had to be at the back of the room with all the other sighted people trying to in the crowd trying to get as close as possible, right? Which is really funny. But in the Louvre, they have a fast track lane for folks with disabilities that gets you right up. I should have brought that picture in. Gets you right up to the little railing around it, the do not pass railing, and everybody else is crowded behind the do not pass railing. Like you're way further behind it, and everybody else is watching you go in. Like, are they allowed to do that? Right? It's quite funny. At any rate, I get taken back to those moments of being in the Louvre, of standing in front of the work. Then I get transported back to, what if I was Leonardo and I was standing in front of the easel, looking at the Mona Lisa with my little, like, this is my imagination, with my cap on, with my brush and my fingertips, putting my finger on my face, thinking, a little more here, painting it on my canvas, looking at Mona, saying, oh, no, don't smile, no, right? How long would Mona Lisa have had to pose for in the old days without moving? A lot, probably. Would she have had to stand in at some point? Yes, probably, all of these different things. I become the painter. I become the universe. What's around me? Are there tapestries made out of velvet, right? Like the world around me is also created, not just the work that is the Mona Lisa. It's the world around me that I feel I'm also immersed in, which that is very cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Amy, do you think it's got people interested in a medium that they might have written off as, quote, not for them?
Absolutely. I hope that that's what this does. I hope that this is another way into the artistic world for people who had thought, yeah, I'm not interested, I'll never see it anyways. Or people who had maybe seen it in their lifetime, like myself, and who thought that they would never be able to experience it in the way they had originally experienced it, and so thought for some reason it'll always just be in my memory, and as my memory fades, well, I'll lose it. But this is a way of being able to reimagine those experiences and those time periods in your life. This is, the work that I do in Arts Access outside of all the other work that I do is what I hope that Arts Access does for people in the blind low vision community, which is reimagine, reinvigorate, re-inspire people to get involved in art. Is it exactly equitable to what the eye sees? No. Is it worse? No. Is it, that's the thing is as we pointed out, art is experiential. And so it's not a better experience. It's not a worse experience. It's an experience. And if I don't know what a sighted person would experience if they were right in front of this piece of work, seeing it and listening to the music at the same time, I imagine that could be quite overwhelming.
That's the key for me. Aim, this has been a really interesting project, and it just goes to show there's so many different creative ways to access art because everybody likes something different. Options are always a good thing, I feel, here with this kind of thing, and we see that in so many other places. On another note, Aim, you're in Kelowna, BC for the Canadian Council of the Blind's British Columbia BC Yukon Division Conference. You took a field trip earlier this week. Where'd you go? What did you learn? And I need it in about 2 minutes.
Great. I'm in Kelowna, BC. We took a trip over to West Kelowna, and we went to a heritage museum and site of the Silex people. So there's some of the traditional First Peoples of this land. And of course, this is unceded or stolen lands, as most lands in British Columbia are. Yes. And had a firsthand tour of this site by an Indigenous woman who was telling us all sorts of really interesting Indigenous history area. And this museum began as a repository after West Bank First Nations achieved self-government in 2005. So they received their own self-government. And as their collection has grown, they've transitioned into this sort of public sphere, and they've opened the doors as a museum in June 2024. And it's just sort of launched this much anticipated move and reopened a space for people to come in and check out the belongings of the people. So belongings instead of things like relics or artifacts, because belongings exist, right? They belong to somebody. They're not belongings of dead people, which would be artifacts, because these people are living to this day. Right. So there were dugout canoes, which are made from one piece of one tree. So quickly, I'll just tell you that they cut one specific tree down from the root. They fall it over, and they cut it in half horizontally, and then they slow burn it from the center. And as it slow burns, it creates a hollow in the center, and they slowly, so that's why it's called a dugout canoe. They slowly scoop that out until it's hollowed out, and they shape it in the shape of a canoe, and it's a good floating sort of waterproof wood. And they put it in the water, and literally once you sit in it, it comes up to almost the top of the canoe, but too heavy to portage, right? And these things are, we hear about these things in First Nations types of communities all over the place, but they're so significantly different to each area because the peoples are working with different landscapes, right? Like this one's too heavy to portage, for example. In other communities, they have to be light enough to portage because you're going over mud and landscapes before you can get to waterways, right? But showed us a lot of traditional fishing instruments that we could touch and feel in our hands, regalia, talked about hunting and fishing in the lands and oral traditions of the people. It was really just fascinating to be in a place where these people were so passionate about sharing their history and knowledge with both settler and non-settler people. And I felt really privileged to be in that space.
And you had some pictures too, right? Which were great.
Yeah, there are pictures of the dugout canoe and of some art, some hunted animals that were taxidermied, but in appropriate cultural ways by the First Nations people who still to this day hunt and fish and talk about using every part of the animal. Nothing is wasted.
Okay. And you were part of a conference there too.
Yes. In this conference, I've done 2 panel conversations. One was a full presentation on Vocal Eye, as I've talked many times with you all about. And yesterday was a panel discussion on artificial intelligence in the workplace. So there's been a full gamut of conversations here already at the conference.
Man, you've been busy.
I know, busy days.
So much going on.
Yeah, and getting out there and giving us some stuff to talk about on the show, things you could touch, and things you learned about the land. I bet it's amazing stuff. I've heard you talk and be able to take some of that in the past. Very interesting to you. And, your guide, I bet, was very entertaining.
She was hilarious. And at one point talked about the fact that pretty much everybody in this area, that it's run by a matriarchy, even though the arranged marriages from long ago were run by the matriarchy. And if the daughters didn't want to marry, they would say nope, and the mother would say, okay, no problem. So there wasn't the same sort of pressure in the same way as it is when the patriarchy marries people. But if they knew it was a marriage that would benefit the tribe, that she says, that the girls would take one for the team, knowing that they could take on multiple husbands. And she said, but the problem with multiple husbands is that everybody's your cousin. So it makes it hard to date in the future because everybody is your cousin, right? So she always added humor to everything that she offered, which was delightful.
Absolutely. Very cool. Yeah. Aim, thanks a lot. Yeah. Thanks a lot for sharing.
Thanks,
Have
Ben.
a great continuation to your trip.
Thank you so much.
Amy will be back with us, of course, in 2 weeks here on the programs. And don't forget, if you want to check out the Dolby immersive experience, you can find it streaming on Apple Music and most other platforms under Sound of a Masterpiece. And all proceeds go towards the Royal Institute of Blind People in the UK. Kelly MacDonald here with Nazreen Abdul-Majid on the program. We're looking for members of the disability community to join our AMI research panel. Our research panel guides us with every decision we make at AMI, including programming, media consumption, and accessibility. Participants are compensated for all long-form studies. For more information and how to join, go to ami.ca/panel. We'd love to hear from you. You can email our program at kellyco@ami.ca and call us at 1-866-509-4545.
Lawrence Gunther is the director of the Bluefish Exploration Center located 2.5 hours north of Ottawa, and the captain of the new Bluefish Explorer, a fully accessible research vessel that will be cruising the Ottawa and St. Lawrence Rivers starting later this spring. And though all that is interesting stuff to remember, the thing we're talking about today is the rebirth of the dire wolf. Lawrence, what are dire wolves? Let's start with that. And how did they manage a comeback after being extinct for over 12,500 years?
Well, I'll tell you what, they're not going to be as your next guide dog. You know, these things are big.
Could you imagine how people would step aside?
You have no crowd issues anymore, you know, even if you went to Disney or something like that. But this is they found some DNA in some bone marrow that was frozen in the Arctic. You know, everything's thawing out up there, so there's lots of bones popping out. And they took that DNA and they inserted it into a gray wolf, which is a distant relative of the dire wolf. And they got 3 pups. The pups' names are Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. And so just if you want to put this in context, the dire wolf was made famous in the Game of Thrones, right? Those are the wolves that are in the Game of Thrones, those sort of AG created wolves. And the company that did this is a company in Texas. Colossal Biotech is the name of the company. So what a cool name for a company. But, you know, controversial, taking frozen DNA, inserting into a distant relative, the gray wolf, and creating these sort of hybrid sort of dire / gray wolf. You know, it's not a pure dire wolf. It's a gray wolf with DNA in it that comes from the dire wolf. So it's, you know, it's not exactly what you would see back then, but it's you know, it's got some of the characteristics of the dire wolf.
Fantastic. When you think about the controversy, before we get talking about, like, I mean, this wolf in its day really hunted down a lot of pretty serious customers, from you know, the woolly mammoth all the way to bison. So many different creatures they brought down, as you were joking around about them being like, you know, a pretty hefty guide animal, service animal, be something else. Is there much, to our knowledge, expected on the differences between that creature and what these will grow up to be? Any idea? Have we heard anything of what they estimate and how similar?
Well, will they even be, you know, fertile, right? You know, sometimes exactly. Like it's a mule. You mix a donkey and a horse together and you get a mule, but you can't breed mules to create more mules. It's a one-shot deal. So this could be another one of those situations. But you know, yeah, they were, you know, very apex predators, right up there with the long-nosed bear and the saber-toothed tiger. These are predators that, you know, that ran amok across North America for millions and millions and millions of years, hunting down prey, like you mentioned, Kelly. You know, the woolly mammoth, those giant furry elephants, and horses and other prey, and so they were sort of fearless. So when humans came across the, you know, the from Siberia during that small ice age, and when the oceans dropped down and that land bridge emerged about 14,000 years ago, humans, they hunted, you know, they had to compete with the dire wolves, and the dire wolves were not afraid of little tiny pesky humans. So it was spear to tusk battles spear to fang battles, I should say, between the dire wolves and the humans. And the humans, like they did with the saber-toothed tiger and the long-nosed bear, they dispatched them. Humans, it took about 1,000 years, and many of those giant animals that roamed around North America were killed off by humans and went into extinction, right? That was a human-made extinction because these animals were not afraid of small humans. So you could go up to them with spears and spear them, and if you were brave enough, and humans were, these were their meals for the next months and months to come, right? Yeah, that's what they did.
Yeah.
So but just to put it in perspective. So the dire wolf differs from the gray wolf, and the gray wolf, so is the same as a timber wolf or a tundra wolf. These are the long, leggy, big-headed wolves with the long tails. They're quite, the folklore of North America, lurking in forests and following humans and hunting on humans and our livestock in the wintertime when food was short. So they were scary wolves, and they still exist to this day.
Exactly, but they're so different than what these dire wolves would have been, because they separated, didn't they? In the time of the species itself divided, and we got these because they're not really close to a gray wolf, right? They're close up, but not in relation.
No, and so why they were able to get the DNA to take hold in the gray wolf is a miracle. But they did diverge millions of years ago, and the dire wolf had a much larger head, much broader shoulders, thicker legs, stockier body, and a much more pronounced snout, which is a gigantic mouth full of teeth. So these were the big brothers of the gray wolf. And more ferocious, more capable, carnivores in terms of their ability to hunt and take down giant animals. They had the equipment, right? And the gray wolves
the gray wolves called them Sir.
they ran for cover, and so the dire wolves were wiped out 12,500 years ago, and but they're back. These three ones are back, and it raises a question, what else? What's next, my friend? What's next?
Okay, so then I have to ask you to that. How do you feel about that, Niz? What they've done to be able to create these? Yeah?
It scares me, like I get it. We're adapting, we're in the future. I understand, but it's still scary that what you thought was impossible came true, and it's very much possible.
I think we liked it all when it was just science fiction on Star Trek.
Right? Exactly. But yeah, we don't want that. I don't know. I don't want that. That's just, I'm scared of everything though. So I think that's fair.
Lawrence, where do you see this as someone who deals so much with species, and your thoughts when you first heard this? Was it the, oh my goodness, what are we doing? Or what does Lawrence Gunther see down the road?
There's people out there who have lots of money who will invest in the next big theme park, right? The next big sort of, how do we get people to come here and spend a lot of money to enjoy our entertainment? We were just getting out of the whole Marineland type situation, right? With the jumping killer whales and the dolphins and the belugas. That's become persona non grata around the world. We got definitely away from using elephants in circuses. That's, no longer the case. We're away from that. But this could be the next sort of iteration of that type of experience, right? Where we have that sort of Jurassic Park kind of experience where we go and pay a lot of money to hang around with previously extinct animals. And I feel, I don't know if that's such a great idea, because you're also unlocking, by bringing these in, possibly viruses, ancient viruses that, were extinct 10,000, 2 million years ago, when you start to thaw these things out, and you don't
we're
really
worried
know
enough
what
about that with the ice, aren't we, with what's happening in the microbes being released.
You start to think, like, did they think of this through, or was it, did they think of these risks, or they just don't care and it's like going to make them money? That's
Well,
You know?
that's a good question. Is it like it's like that submersible that they were driving down onto the Titanic, down there, right? And they didn't follow many rules either, and that thing finally imploded, and all the people on board were killed. So
Well,
are the rules? Are the rules?
And it's all what we want, whether it's for entertainment or what they'll say is for science. And then you ask, well, what is the scientific reason for doing this, for jeopardizing, I mean, obviously we can't stop ice from melting, microbes from being released into what's going on. Well, sorry, let me rephrase that. We could going forward, if we take our atmosphere, our world and everything seriously, and start saying what damage are we doing that's causing this ice, retreating and so on. But when you purposely say we could do this, we could create this, I don't know, Lawrence, should there be more checks and balances by the world scientists, the government itself, to say, listen, this is the slippery slope we're going on, or this shouldn't be a problem? And again, we can make a misjudgment. We do it with medications all the time. Try something out. This is great. This could be the next best thing. Wow, that didn't work out.
I hear you, and then you think about something like the rhinoceros, right? The last male rhinoceros that died, and the two remaining female northern African black rhinoceros that are left existing. I mean, so there's no males, there's two females. They of course they're saving DNA and all the rest of it, but is it ethical to bring these animals back from extinction? And how do you do it? And is this the next step to reversing extinction, or what they're calling distinction, right? Distinction. Is it a safe way out? Do we have to care anymore about wiping out animals because we know we have this technology that can bring them back later on?
Yeah.
It's like taking your head off and freezing it, right? And like Walt Disney did, his head's in a freezer somewhere and he's hoping to come back to life someday. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just his head. Cryogenics, man. Look like, what's his name? Theo from the old Buck Rogers TV series. You remember that, Lawrence?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's saying, no, I don't actually.
So
Nazreen's
Romulus,
saying, don't do it at all.
Yeah, don't do it. I'm not for it. No. But Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi are the names of the 3 direwolf pups, right?
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah. So
I like
do we know how come they named them? Do we know why they named them that? That has nothing to do.
I don't know. Maybe it came from Game of Thrones. Maybe,
that's what I wasn't sure, but Romulus reminds me of Star Trek. Remus, the old books, the Uncle Remus books that they used to have you hear about years ago. And I'm not sure that's quite the pronunciation, but the familiarity of them it seems to ring home, but I have no idea as to why. Really interesting, Lawrence. Interesting.
Yeah,
topic.
thank you so much, Lawrence.
Well, my pleasure, you guys. Thanks for having me on.
So what's next on the de-extinction agenda? I guess if it's interesting enough, Lawrence Gunther will bring it up when he joins us in a month.
Yeah, because we're going to do this every month. Inject, and bear some new, next will be the woolly mammoths coming back. All right, folks, remember to check out our podcast from your platform of choice. You could find Kelly and Company available to you that way while you're out there listening in, checking us out. Please give us a rating and review, subscribe to it, as well as subscribe to our YouTube page. Lots of amazing content there. We really appreciate that. And either place, just enjoy the content and take it in any way that you choose to, folks. We'd really thank you for your time. That is on the podcast that you can find using your favorite platform and our YouTube page.
So we're wondering, what do celebrities actually eat when the cameras are off? Turns out quite a few of them have some pretty strong kitchen opinions. Culinary expert Mary Mammoliti is here to break down some surprising tips, tricks, and hacks from celebrity kitchens. Mary, let's start with a celebrity who's practically becoming the face of homemade Italian food, Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci. He loves Italian cuisine, and then he swears by saving pasta water. I talk about this all the time, and he's absolutely right. So that starchy water, it acts like this glue for your sauce. It helps bind the pasta. It gives this glossy finish. That's absolutely delicious. Think of dishes like cacio e pepe or a simple tomato sauce. Honestly, this one step, it makes your pasta taste and feel like you're sitting on a patio in a Roman trattoria. Honestly, it makes a world of a difference. So I'm with him on this.
Instead of him draining the pasta water, he just leaves it and just puts the sauce on top, mixes it up.
So you can scoop out a cup of the pasta water, drain it or strain it, and get rid of the rest of the water. And while you're mixing it in, add a little bit of it, because it helps gloss everything over, and it's just so silky. It's delicious. And because you're salting
wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Because you're salting your pasta water.
Yeah, yes.
Sometimes it all depends on the type of sauce that you're using, but because that pasta water has got the starch in it from the boiling pasta, it's got the salt in it. You get that little kind of, I want to say umami, but not really, because it's not in this dish, but it's got the little extra saltiness to it, which is really nice.
Yeah.
I like that. Boy, that sounds good.
Yeah. Simple step.
Yeah. It's very simple and something that we just down the drain. Mayor, I've always been one of those people, and you know this, who says, well, I wouldn't go to a place and buy macaroni and cheese. Who would do that? I wouldn't go to a place and buy a grilled cheese. I could make that at home. However, if I'm looking on YouTube, I might find creative ones that go viral.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like Miss Chrissy Teigen. So she always has twists and turns, and she always amps up recipes. It's kind of like, sometimes they're borderline kind of carnival treats, but this one here, she levels up her grilled cheese. And what she does is she presses jalapeno slices into the buttered side of the bread. And then she takes that buttered side of the bread with the jalapenos, and then she she presses it into some Parmesan cheese. And then, she'll take that, and then on the inside of this grilled cheese, there's some shredded cheese. Don't be shy with it. Give it on the shredded cheese, shredded cheddar. I was going to say slap it together, but really there's a better term for that. Put it together.
Build it.
Just build it, put it together, and then place it into a pan. Honestly, it's crispy, it's spicy, it's cheesy, it's full of texture. I kind of think it's like grilled cheese with a bit of personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you try this?
Is the hotness general? Like, would you say that people who, I don't like things too hot, would still really take this in? Or again, I'm sure you can decide how much of that you're going to press in, how much of the runoff of the pressing in the peppers and that you're going to want. But do you find it do you think it'd be pretty distinct, the bite?
So again, it is, but you also can control, like you said, the heat. Yeah, because if you're using fresh jalapenos, when you cut them into little circles, you can take the seeds out, remove the seeds.
Oh, right.
That removes a little bit of the heat, but you're getting still that jalapeno kind of taste and crunch with it, which is delicious.
Beautiful.
It kind of takes it a little different.
I would try this, but I'm very sensitive to spicy food. So there's
and with your luck, one pepper would still be floating in there.
I would be on fire. I would start crying.
Okay, I have a solution for you. What you could try is, instead of the jalapeno, there are sweet peppers.
Right. Yeah.
That you can cut them into rings and try that. And not the bell peppers. I'm talking about their little thin.
Yeah, the sweet ones.
The sweet ones.
Yeah. I know what you mean, even though I'm so, but I don't mind those peppers. I don't know. You really, Mary, would you try that with that? Like, wouldn't it kind of ruin it for you?
Honestly, I would definitely try this because it's got a lot of what I like. I like a little bit of heat. I love cheese.
Oh, no, I mean the sweet pepper thing. Would
the sweet pepper?
Like if you had someone, if you were eating with Nisreen and you knew you were making these, would you eat that the way, like, let you just suggest? No way. I'd want that hot, but I'd want to control it.
Exactly. You could, but the sweet pepper is a nice alternative because honestly, it's people like my sister, one of my brothers, they cannot handle heat.
Right.
So it's a nice way to kind of join in on it and experience it, but just without the heat.
Yeah, get them.
I wish I was one of those people that can eat spicy food and just go about my day, but I can't.
Yeah,
I really can't. Like,
well, spicy is different than hot, though.
Spicy food.
Right, I know we say that, but spicy is different than hot. It's got that spicy hot bite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think you can handle it, Kelly?
Oh, I don't need it hot because I don't eat stuff hot ridiculous anymore. I just don't bother. I don't see the point anymore because I started to realize, man, I can't even taste this. All I taste is heat, and it just seems stupid. If I want that, I'll just eat the hot pepper by itself.
Right. Well, what you do is experience that heat at the back of your mouth, right? At the back of your mouth is where you want to experience that heat, not your whole mouth on fire.
No.
So broccoli's never been the star of the plate until Kristen Bell got her hands on it. What's her trick for making them irresistible?
Okay, so she steams it, right? And then she tops it with salt. Easy enough. That's not where she stops. That's not where she stops. She adds, wait for it, crushed pretzels and some Parmesan cheese. Honestly, I never would have thought of adding crushed pretzels. But she also switches it up that if she wants a plant-based version, she'll remove the Parmesan and then she'll use nutritional yeast. For those picky eaters, she's got more options that don't like broccoli's texture. She says like this salty, crunchy topping, it makes all the difference. But then she also says you can use crushed chips, crackers, or croutons. Honestly, doesn't this kind of scream more of a snack energy?
Well, yeah, but it also screams like where I'm going to hear people say, oh, I don't like the texture of it. Because I don't expect that kind of texture with eating broccoli.
That sounds delicious. I'm not going to lie.
It does. To me, it does.
Yeah.
Does it?
Oh,
I'm on the fence.
I love the idea of the texture, the crunch, and the extra saltiness of it.
Yeah,
I think it.
But I don't get as upset about texture as other people do because I'll eat a lot of seafood stuff that some of it is kind of. I mean, I certainly don't like. What do you call it? Oh my God. Some fish that come, or the shellfish that come on their on the shell, the half shell. I'm blanking out.
Oysters, clams?
Oysters. Thank you. I love oysters, but not on the half shell. That's ridiculous. I couldn't.
Do you
think
love oysters? I can't.
Not like that.
I can't. This is texture for me.
Texture.
Me too. And that is the thing.
I can't hear or watch someone eat it. I actually.
Oh really?
Gag.
See, I don't like them that way, but I love smoked oysters.
It's the slurp, right?
It's the slurp.
I gag from the slurp. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, because it's kind of grossy. Okay, but I think I'd try this. But do you want to talk, speaking of fish, seafood, about tuna?
Matthew McConaughey. All right.
I thought it'd be some Texas thing he'd bring us. Okay.
It's not. It's tuna salad. But this one, I really want to hear what you both think of this one. Okay, so his version includes tuna, mayo. Pretty simple, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Vinegar. Okay.
Whoa.
Lemon.
Yeah.
And there's more. Wait.
A lot of acid.
Wasabi. Red onion.
Yep.
Dill pickles. Jalapeno chips. Chopped apple. Corn. Peas. And last but not least, agave syrup.
Yes. Okay.
You start to think, what is his what's he accomplishing? What's he accomplishing to taste from this? You lost me at vinegar, I have to say.
You kind of lost me a bit with the chips, but I'd be willing to take a little bit of them and try that.
Are you serious? This is what you
everything else is beautiful. No, vinegar's fine, but it is awfully full of acid. Like it's a acidic meal, but the tuna should counter that, and so should the mayo to a point, even though mayo can be as well. But that's the only thing I find. The chips kind of soak up stuff.
Chips rather than vinegar and wasabi.
And your favorite, there's pickles in there too.
I love pickles. But Mary, what do you think of this combination, this wild combo?
Wow.
When he wasabi, it depends on how much of it.
Yep, of course.
Honestly, you're both going to be shocked. He had me until jalapeno chips. Chopped apple, that's where he lost me. Wow, because then he's getting into a lot of the sweet. Then he's adding agave syrup. Agave syrup, I had already checked out. That was no thank you. That's a hard pass for me. As soon as I heard that.
You'd need to kind of mix that way. We're short of time, Rihanna.
Okay.
Rihanna,
fancy chicken nuggets. So Rihanna doesn't share much about her personal life, but she does. When she does, it's next level. So she shared a post about pairing McNuggets with caviar, right?
Oh, wow.
Excuse me. But then her personal chef shared what she eats every single day. get this, 4 boiled eggs, 1 slice of toast with no crust, of course. And then a fruit bowl with mango, berries, and pineapple. But the kicker is she has to have this on the table every single time, which is Eaton's Jamaican Scotch bonnet. Oh my goodness, I'm talking about it and I'm choking. Look, my eyes are watering.
Oh, God.
And I'm just talking about Eaton's Jamaican Scotch bonnet pepper sauce.
Oh, man.
This is what that sauce does to me.
What a meal, though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So scrambled eggs, celebrity edition. Apparently scrambled eggs are where the stars get creative. Who knew?
Okay. This all started with Kelly Ripa. I went down a rabbit hole. And look, I am crying still thinking about the Scotch bonnet peppers.
Aw.
Okay.
She's
All
imagining.
the other peppers don't get her. This one does. Wow. Okay.
Excuse me. Honestly, Scotch bonnet, as soon as I talk about it, my whole face, my face flares up. All right, Kelly Ripa mixes in double creme brie, and creme fraiche. Then I came across Oprah. She adds in jalapeno, scallion, wait for it, truffle cheese, because only Oprah would.
Okay.
Dolly Parton has my favorite. So she adds a few drops of ice water. And this is to make them fluffier. And then there's no cream needed, nothing, just ice water to this. It's like I would say a teaspoon per egg.
Doesn't it get runny? Or like
No,
too watery?
instead of using water or cream, guys, I'm choking. I don't know what's happening.
You're good.
Oh, Mary.
I'm so sorry. The Scotch bonnets.
We'll blame them for sure. Awesome. Mary, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Oh, you're welcome. Now I'm going to go collect myself.
Oh, I bet. And have some hot peppers, will you? And maybe some wasabi just to finish it up.
Yeah, that'll really help.
So, who knew celebrity kitchens were this wild? And of course, their wild opinions. Thank you, Mary.
Love it. I love it. Mary joins us every week on the show. Best to you, Nazreen, and everybody for their Easter weekend. Please, if you're traveling, be safe, folks. On our next show, which of course is Monday, allergy season is up, and we're keeping our fingers crossed for minimal impact. To help us out, nutritionist Julia Carancis shares tips and tools on how to manage symptoms holistically. Enjoy your weekend, folks. Now, get out of here, will ya?
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.